Good morning, everyone. It is so good to be here. Our third graders are so excited because today is finally the day that they get to present their monologues. These monologues are derived from this lovely book called Good Masters, Sweet Ladies, Voices from a Medieval Village by Laura Amy Schlitz. She did such a beautiful job putting together these stories indicating how these children lived in these medieval villages. As you will soon see, these children know each other. And they all live in the same manor, a manor in England in the time of 1255. So let's go ahead and welcome our third graders as they present Good Masters, Sweet Ladies, Voices from a Medieval Village.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Hugo, the Lord's nephew. The Feast of All Souls. I ran for my tutor. Latin, grammar, no wonder. I ran to the woods, where I saw his tracks. This big, mud scratched on the bottom side of the trees. I followed his friends straight to his bed. I found it warm. There was a boar in the forest. When I went back, there was my uncle, rod in hand, but he didn't strike. I told him, there's a boar in the forest. Why then, we'll go hunting. And as for you, you'll hunt like a man or be flogged like a boy. Help kill the boar, and I'll give you the kidneys. Turn tail, and I'll have the skin off your back. That night, I lay, dreamed of the hunt, the underbrush stirring, the snort of the boar, its foul mouth foaming, its tusks like scimitars. Those tusks could slice a man, but that wasn't the worst of it. The man who dies from the wound of a boar loses his soul. Dawn came. We mounted. Long before noon, the dogs got the scent. The hunt was on. 2 relays of hounds, squealing most sore, the third faint with fatigue. I could smell my sweat, rank with fear. Then it was like my dream. The underbrush moved. The sticks shattered. I saw it, bristling, dark as the devil, huge as a horse. My uncle dismounted, and I did the same. Mouth dry, palms wet. 1 hand forward on the spear, 1 foot ahead. The fall would be death. It charged. My uncle lunged, and I behind him. Thrust, felt the spear pierce, braced myself, end to armpit, shoved. It took a long time. The keening of the dogs, the struggling of the boar, blood on the grass. At last it was over. The brute lay still. I almost wept. The joy of it and the terror. I gasped like a fish, let my head fall back. The green leaves swam in the sky. He kept his word. Right there in the wood, we kindled the fire and butchered the boar. The kidneys are mine, gleaming with fat. Clapped me in the back and called me a man. But in the dark of night, I still hear that sound, sweat in my sleep. My spear slips from my hand. I'm dreaming I'm back in the wood with that boar.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Taggett, the blacksmith's daughter. 9 days it's been since the Maine, and I'm restless yet. Mother hasn't seen it, nor father, nor Robin. Only the horses know. It was May Day, and the others, even father and mother at their age, set off for the woods, wanting bluebells and cowslips and kissing under the trees. I used to go when I was little. I liked to pick flowers and peek. But I am older now. My friends have sweethearts. My fine girl, that's father. He taught me the work of the forge, and even Robin admits there's no one better to quiet a horse. I lay my hands on them and feel them trembling. I know how they feel. They're like me, timid. So I breathe sweet peace to them, not with my lips, but with my fingers. And they hear me, not with their ears, but with their skins. The others went in Maine, and I stayed behind, spinning in the sunshine. The morn was clear as glass, and I was happy as a singing bird. And then he came, leading his horse, and the horse limping, head down, head down. as fine a horse as I've ever seen. A fair palfrey, a wondrous horse. But I was gazing at the boy. He had brown hair, not golden like the knights in story, and his eyes, dark as rivers. The glory was his face. The shape of it, I don't have the words. He wore a blue cloak, bluer than the sky, and in the clasp was a sprig of white hawthorn. He'd been a Maine, and how I hated her, the girl he might have kissed. I was ashamed to be caught staring, but I put my hand on the palfrey, and he gentled, as they always do. I ran my hand down the lame leg, picked up the hoof, and saw a stone caught between the hoof and the shoe, a grievous thing. Is the blacksmith in? His voice was like his face, proud and courteous. My palms were sweating. I can ease him. So I led the horse to the forge, and the master followed. I could tell right away he loved his horse. I don't know what he thought. The maid should know how to shoot a horse. He may have been startled. I daren't look. I set to work, and my hands were steady. All the time I was fishing for something to say. A fine morning, or even, what is your name? But I knew who he was. Hugo, they called him. I never did speak. I thought if I opened my mouth, he'd know my whole heart. When I was finished, I wiped my hands on my apron, and he held out a coin, a farthing. I was sudden bold. I reached out my hand and shoved it away. I hid my face in my hands. I don't know why or for how long. Afterward, I went outside, back to the forge. He was gone by then, long gone, and it seems a long life. I may live 50 years and not see him again. Thinking that, I bent my head and saw, lying on the anvil, a miracle, that sprig of hawthorn from his cloak, on the anvil. If 'twere on the ground, it might only have fallen, but it was on the anvil. I picked it up as if it were holy. I couldn't stop smiling. He left it for me.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Will, the plowboy. Wheat, barley, and fallow. That's what my father taught me. If you've got 3 fields, you sow wheat in October and barley in March and let the 3rd field rest. I don't know why the fields have a right to rest when people don't. I only know that's what he taught me. My father's been dead for 4 years now, but I think of him every day. I used to lead the ox while he plowed. We'd finished the field on the north side of the village and crossed to the west, but that was a long walk, and he let me ride the ox. Then the Lord gave us a strip of low field that was so far it took us half the day to get there, and I couldn't keep up, and neither could my father. There was so much walking between the fields, and the strips of land were so small, our harvest wasn't worth a rotten apple. Then the Lord gave us And then there was the work he had to do in the Lord's fields, the work he was paid to do. Every day he'd bring home 3 herrings and a loaf of bread, but sometimes the herrings had been dead so long we couldn't eat them. One night he came home late, and my mother ran out and put her arms around him. And I heard her say, "Why, what's that?" And he put his hand over her mouth and led her inside. And under his smock, he had a hare, most as big as a fox. Still warm, he'd killed it with a stone. My mother cried and said he'd be hanged. And he told her to clean the hare for supper. So we had fresh meat, and I ate so much I was sick in the night. He said I couldn't tell anyone, not ever, because that hare belonged to the Lord, and we had no right to eat it. And I never did tell, and no one found out. And when he lay dying, he told me to work hard and take care of my mother and my sisters. I always did everything he told me. And I promised I would. I always did everything he told me. I always will, so long as I live.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Alice the shepherdess. My mother died when I was born, so I was suckled by one of the sheep. It's made me, my father says, more sheep than human, which is true. All my life I've lived with sheep, drunk their milk, eaten their meat, washed their fleece, carded their wool. Now that I'm older, I help with the lambing. My hands are small, which is good if you have reached inside a sheep. Jilly's my favorite. She's my sister. The same mother gave us milk. Most sheep don't care one way or another, but Jilly is sweet of heart. I love the feel of her chin in the palm of my hand, and I love the smell of her on my fingers. It was last spring that I awakened. I knew something was wrong. Jilly, what's amiss? She only stared with the blank, dark eyes of a beast in pain. I walked behind her, lifted her tail, and saw the head of a dead lamb sticking out between her legs. She'd be struggling to push out that lamb, God knows how long, me lying asleep. I rubbed goose grease on my hands, reached inside. She was bone dry. I knew I hurt her dragging out that lamb, and she lay there, motionless as death. I called the old shepherd. I made him look at her. He said she'd die. She's given up, he said. Sheep don't fight. That's why they need shepherds. I started to cry. Old Ralph saw. There's one thing, he said. I wiped my nose on my sleeve. What's that? You might try singing. No one knows why. But sheep fancy music, they do. So all that day and all that night, I stayed by Jill and sang, God restore thee, thou heavenly sheep, hark to my music and heal in thy sleep. It was really a song from the Virgin Mary, but I changed the words and sang it over and over, and the stars came out. Do not forsake me, my sister, my sheep, slumber ye gently and heal in thy sleep. I stroked her fleece and felt her chest 100 times to see if she was breathing. The moon crossed the sky, and there was dew in the grass, and the morning star rose, and I sang, best of all in the flock that I tend, my lamb, my Jilly, my sister, my friend, my lambkin Jilly, thou heavenly sheep, lullaby lowly and heal in thy sleep. I sang until my voice was hoarse, and I was shivering so hard I couldn't go on. Then I wrapped my arms around Jill, lay down by her side, and slept. I must have slept well, 'cause she got away from me. When I opened my eyes, the sky was full red, and Jill was standing up, cropping her grass.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I am Otho, the miller's son. For father is the miller, as his father was of old. And I shall be the miller, my father's flesh is gold. I know the family business, it's been jumping to my head. How to cheat the hungry customer and earn my daily bread. Oh, God makes the water, and the water makes the rivers, and the river turns the mill wheel, the wheel goes on forever. Every man's a cheater, and so every man is fed. For we feed upon each other while we seek our daily bread. My father's a hard man, muscular and stout. He swings the heavy cudgel whenever he walks out. My grandfather was like him, of man to gain and sin. They found him in the mill pond, with the skull bashed in. Oh, God makes the water makes the rivers, and the river turns the mill wheel, and the wheel goes on forever. I used to wonder why the peasants hated us so strong. They think we pick their pockets, and they're not far wrong. Flour in the flour sack, vermin in the flour. Pay swings by the mill, hour after hour. They curse us as a stain line, enjoy their little talk. My father grunts the flour and replaces it with chalk. Oh, God makes the water, and the water makes the rivers, and the river turns the mill wheel, and the wheel goes on forever. When you think about the matter, it's as good as any sermon, for the villains feed the miller, and the miller feeds the vermin. When I was only 4 years old, still babyish and unsteady, I tried to play with the common folk. They hated me already. They knew I was my father's son. My father serves the Lord. One day I'll show them that hating me 'tis a thing they can't afford. Oh, God makes the water, and the water makes the rivers, and the river turns the mill wheel, and the wheel goes on forever. There's no use looking back, for here's the truth I found. It's hunger, want, and wickedness that makes the world go round. For every man's a cheater, and he wants his neighbor's grain. The peasant moved the boundary stone and steals the Lord's domain. The miller steals the flour, and the baker steals the bread. We're hypocrites and liars, and we all get fed.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Isabel, the Lord's daughter. I cannot get this stain out of my gown. I've tried chicken feathers, water, and ox gall, but still this mark. My father will be angry. A fine silk gown spoiled. But it wasn't my fault. I was passing through town on my way to the market when somebody threw it. A clod of dung. I was walking eyes down, as a modest maid should, when somebody threw a cloud of dung. I saw the boys, but didn't know which. If I told my father, he would see that they all had a good beating. And maybe I should, but I cannot but think. Only one threw the cloud, only one should be punished. But which? I cannot tell. The stain from my gown or the thought had in my mind. They hate me. Why? What have I done? With my own soft hands I have gave out bread on Lamb's Day, and from my own purse I have gave to the poor. And in times of wars, those self-same boys will scurry like rats to hide themselves in my father's walls. Yet it is true. I am better clad, better shawled, and better fed than those trolls. And what if I am? Lord God chose my father to rule, the same way he chose them to serve. I do but take what they would take if Lord God chose to give to them. I want to forget the way they laughed. Their smiles were so ugly, I almost feared. They were big boys, almost men, and I was alone, except for my maid Emmett. Never mind, my lad, she said to me, but I do mind. My gown is spoiled, and never again will I walk through the streets with my eyes cast down. Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Barbary, the mudslinger. I shouldn't have done it. I knew it was wrong. When the muck left my hand, it was folly and cruelty, and I wish I hadn't. I was off to buy fish, and my stepmother said, "Take the twins." "Why?" said I. "Both of them? Bad enough with one. They're strong now, leaning their weight against my hand, dragging me in circles. I can only carry one. The other hauls at me. How should I manage the shopping?" "Just take them," she said, and burst into tears. "I want them out of the house. Just take them, you hear me? There'll be more come Christmas. 6 months, she said, and the tears rained down her face. Another babe come Christmas. I stood there with my jaw almost touching my knees. More babies? There's the twins up and running. They don't sleep at night. They still puke out most of what you scoop into them. They shriek like hawks all day long. The cottage stinks like midden. Babies mess everywhere. More babies? I wanted to scold, but my stepmother sank down in the rushes and wailed like a babe herself. It's worse for her than it is for me. Birthing the twins near killed her. So I took up my basket and snatched up the twins, one held my hand, the other on my hip. We set off for the market. It wasn't easy. The twin on the ground took the fish from my basket and threw it. It landed by the water trough, and I had to wade through the mud to get it back. The twin on my hip seemed quiet enough till he started to bellow. I smelled something rank and felt it leak down my dress. That's when I saw her, Isabel, the Lord's daughter, dressed in blue. Her hair was combed, sleek as an otter. Her veil was snow white. She had a servant to carry her basket, so her hands were free to pinch up her skirt and pick her way through the muck, daintily, daintily. Her lips were curved like the smile of a cat, and something got into me. Maybe 'twas the devil. I let go of the twin, picked up a handful of dung, filth, Lord knows what, and let it fly. Bullseye. But I didn't enjoy it. Not for more than a moment. Not after I saw her face. She hadn't done anything to me. And the smuck of mud against her blue gown, the prettiest dress I ever saw, I ruined it. The boys in Chamberlain laughed. They won't tell on me. They're my friends. I saw her eyes pass over me and rest on them. She thought they did it. I ought to have said something. I am sorry. 'Twas my doing. But my little brother picked up something foul and mashed it in his mouth. By the time I got to him, pried open his jaws, fished it out, and bellowed, "No!" She'd plucked up her skirts to go. Her back went straight as a knife, her head held proud. Poor girl, I was sorry, almost weeping. On the way home, I went to church, dragged the twins before the crucifix, and knelt down, trying to pray and keep hold at the same time. It wasn't easy. I prayed that God would forgive me, that the muck would come out of her dress, that my stepmother wouldn't die. It made me think how all women are the same, silk or sackcloth, all the same. There's always babies to be born and suckled and wiped and worried over. And thinking of that, I added one more prayer. Sweet Jesus, come Christmas, don't let it be twins.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Pierce, the glass blower's apprentice. After 3 years of pumping the bellows and stoking the furnace, I said to the master, "When do I learn to blow glass?" He stared at me with his one blue eye. The other was burned shut in a workshop fire. There's a red seam down his face, with an eye melted shut. Once I was afraid of him, not now, when I choose to teach you. That was all he said. That was all he said. For the rest of the week, I was peevish and slothful. He knew I was wroth, and once he said, "You won't find it easy. It's harder than it looks. But then he said, "Now." And I blinked. "What now? You wanted a chance to blow glass? Now try it." So I did. I'd watched him 1,000 times. I took the iron pipe and held it in the fire till it glowed red hot. My hand, my left hand, nearest the fire, throbbed with heat, and I felt the sweat run down my chest. I gathered the glass, white hot, glowing, and put the pipe in my mouth and blew, but it didn't work. The glass was stiff and would not swell. I put my thumb on the mouth of the pipe, sucked air, blew out, but all this while the glass was getting colder, duller, orange, blood red, black. I didn't dare look at him, that one-eyed stare, but his voice was kind. Again, I took the pipe, gathered the glass, sweated, blew. I blew like the angel Gabriel, sounding the horn for Judgment Day. I felt the bubbles start to form. I trapped the air, plugged the pipe, rolled the glass, twirled it on the marble slab, and now my right hand burned and ached, and the glass was off, lopsided. I didn't dare lift my head. The glass was ruined. But he said, "Well done." St. Luke, please help me to try again and keep my master well. Amen.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Pasch the runaway. I don't know when I ran away, but it was past Eastertide and before Lammas, Lammas to Michaelmas, and Michaelmas to Christmas, Christmas, Lent, and Easter. It must be nearly a year. Once I have lived in a town a year and a day, I'll be free. That's the law. The worst is over. This past winter, I don't know which was worse, the hunger or the cold, but I knew I would never go back. My father used to say to me he wished he'd run away when he was young and had no wife and children. Once there's mouths to feed, he'd say, "You're a slave for life. You work till you drop down dead, just to feed your children." But he never did feed us. It wasn't his fault. A villain only gets what the Lord lets him keep, and our Lord was tight-fisted. And then there was sickness, and my parents died, and I ran away. I wish I'd kept count of the days since I left. Once I'm free, I can start looking for work. Town work, the kind where you get money instead of old cabbage leaves and dregs of beer. I'll get someone to teach me to make barrels or rope or meat pies. That'd be best, to work around food. Someday I'm going to buy me one of those meat pies, one that's hot, and eat the whole thing, all at once. And someday I'll buy new clothes. When winter comes, I'll have shoes on my feet instead of rags and straw. And when it's harvest time, I'll go to the fair and buy a blue ribbon for the girl who works up at the kennels. She was kind to me last winter. I had been thieving and doing odd jobs, but the snow had been falling 3 days, and everyone was within. There was nothing to steal and no work to be had. I took shelter in the kennel with the dogs. That's where she found me. She came in with the dog's bucket, and the hounds jumped up baying, and I huddled by the wall in the shadows. But she saw me. The dogs were around her barking, but she looked past them to where I sat shivering. She came over with the dog's bucket and dipped her hand in and held out a handful of porridge. I was so hungry I snatched her hand and gobbled, same as if I was a dog. I gulped down the dog's food and sucked her fingers, and she gave me more. Even as I was eating, I knew how queer it all was, but I didn't care. She was a stranger and stank of dog, but I licked her palm as if it were a golden plate. She let me stay till the winter thawed. I kept out of sight as best I could. From time to time, she gave me something to eat. She told me the names of the dogs. She loves the puppies best. Her hands are covered in tooth marks. She looks a bit like a pup herself. She has shaggy hair that hangs in her eyes and flops down to her shoulders, like ears. Someday I'll go back to her. I'll wear new clothes and I'll tell her I'm free. Not a villain, not a vagabond, a free man. And I'll give her a piece of ribbon, blue as her eyes, so she can make herself pretty and tie back her hair.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Nellie, the sniggler. I was born lucky. Nay, not born lucky, as you shall hear, but lucky soon after, and ever after. My father and mother were starving poor, and dreaded another mouth to feed. When my father saw I was a girl child, he took me up to drown me in a bucket of water. But here's the lucky part, 'tis pure sooth. I did not drown, babe though I was, but took hold with my wee fingers and held on to the edge of the bucket. And my mother wept, and my father's heart was softened, and he could drown me no more than himself. And they named me Nellie, for Queen Eleanor. Then their luck changed. First, my uncle died of the scurvy and got his pigs. Then the nuns at the abbey hired us to catch eels, and we've been sniggling ever since. See these eels? Fresher than the day they were born, and as fat as priests. I know where their boars are, and I know what they like for bait. And as for frogs, I've been catching frogs since I was 2 years old. There's not a frog in Chesterham jumps fast enough to get away from me. I can swim fast as any boy, better than Drago the Tanner. Do you know Drago the Tanner's apprentice? I can't point him out to you because he'd see me. He's always staring at me, and many the time I've seen him peel back his hose to show me his legs, as if every frog I've ever put up high didn't have better legs than his. We had a brawl last summer. I said 'twas the fault of the tanners that the river stank, and he said 'twas the fishmongers, which is pure folly, for God wills that the fish should rot in the water, but the beast should rot on land. I put out my tongue, and by St. Peter, he pushed me right off the wharf and into the water. And, poor fool, he thought I'd drown. I, who couldn't drown, I was 3 hours old. He splashed in after me, and I dove down deep and grabbed his foot and dunked him 3 times. Served him right, only then I had to drag him out of the water because it turns out he can't swim. So I suppose you could say I saved his life. He's never forgotten it. He watches me all the time and shows off his legs, but I don't speak to him. I want nothing to do with him and his legs. I pretend I don't even know his name. And every day I walk past the tannery just so he can see me not looking his way.
Good masters, sweet ladies, I'm Giles, the beggar, the best of my trade. Behold, my crushed foot, the sight of it would sicken your stomach and soften your heart. A penny, a farthing, I grovel for mercy. Sometimes I can manage real tears. It's an art. No takers, no givers, not even a morsel. Ah, they're stoned to my pitiful cries. So I'm left my wits, which in fact are prodigiously keen and surpassingly wise. I entered town with my crutch and my cry, food for the famished, alms for the poor. I stagger, collapse to the dust of the road. I swoon, too exhausted to go one more step. Here comes my father, but I do not know him. I lay by the roadside, starting to wail. My father, the peddler, the dealer in relics. 10 pence for a thread from St. Margaret's Vale. Who covets the thumbnail of Martin of Tours? Or This better still, even this can be yours. A flask of the healing holy water used on the feet of St. James the Apostle. Sometimes they pay, more often they don't. So he throws up his hands and sighs, like that. Ah, ye have no faith. Before you I swear, I will cure. Here and now, this unfortunate brat. That's my cue. That's one whimper. He opens the flask and anoints me, while I seem to faint with the authentic holy water used on the feet of the holy saint. I swoon in his arms, look upward, cry out. Now seers of heaven step forward and gawk. Angels, apostles, I see them before me. I throw down my crutch, clasp my hands, and walk. Once the money is paid, line. If I do just right, the crowd gasps aloud. They genuflect, weep, stretch their hands out, and touch. Once money is paid, I keep. What? I gather my bandages, pick up my crutch. My pantomime's done. Once the money is paid, I keep out of town. Feel guilt, but not much. Later, my father follows the high road. We meet. He gives me my supper, my pay. Bread or an apple, cabbages, turnips. Sometimes there's sausages on a good day. We stop by the road, ask our Lord to look after us, send us more fools for food in our keep. Forgive us our trespasses, pardon our lies, look after your foxes, as well as your sheep.